How do I increase my food truck profits today? This isn't just a clickbait title. This is a very real subject that we're going to cover in this video.
It definitely is. We're going to talk about getting you off the truck, because you can't be an efficient food truck owner if you're cooking or being the cashier. We're going to talk about how to get more people through your line, and then the important part, how to market to get people into the line in the first place.
And we're going to cover customer service and give some great tips on why that's so important and how to achieve it to increase your profits. So with all of that in mind, let's dive in. Okay, Bill, well, I love this topic because these are very quick things that people can do to increase their profits right away. And that can be a make or break scenario for some people on whether they make it or not in this industry. So let's dive right in. If somebody is selling but they want to increase their profits, what are some of the things that they can do to drive up their pricing, up their sales, all of those things that will help them be more profitable?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things we're going to presuppose in this is that they've already got good quality service, good quality food. So we're going to say that those things are under control. So then the next thing is we got to draw people in. So we got to market. The easiest thing you can do to market is every time that you're set out and you're not busy, there's nobody to wait on, there's your signal you need to market. So we're going to get on social media, we're going to get off the truck, we're going to pass out samples, we're going to wave a sign. As much as I hate sign waving, it does work. People will come up to me and say, hey, I come in because I saw the dude down the street waving a sign. So anything that you can do to attract attention, to draw attention, because your food truck will fade into the background. So you got to get people's attention on the food truck. Be in front of it, wave.
I hate when I'm, there have been times where I've been at a food truck park or something like that, and I'll be walking through trying to decide, and I see all these operators standing back in their food truck, peering out the window like, is he going to come here or not? It's uncomfortable for me as a consumer, but I'm also just baffled by why doesn't somebody engage me, give me a sample, or even talk out the window. Hey, how are you doing today? Have you ever tried RX? One of their staples. Anything. Right. Engaging people to be proactive like that can make a huge difference. And I tell people, hey, if you're even your order taker, if they got nothing to do, jump out. And if there's foot traffic, any foot traffic that's going past your food truck should be very aware that you're there, this is what you sell, and be invited in to participate in that. And you will immediately see sales go up when that's your attitude.
100%. I like what you talked about, inviting people in, being a part of getting them to come to you. There are a number of food trucks that part of their equipment package is to have fold-up chairs or lawn chairs. They'll sit outside and they'll be leaning back, waiting on somebody to show up. Right. And I feel like every time I walk by them or drive by them, well, I don't want to interrupt their break. I'll just go somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So even that, posturing yourself, looking like you are wanting to serve people is a great way to present yourself. Okay, so let's say that you are getting plenty of foot traffic and you have people there, but maybe maybe you're just not serving enough people every hour to make it work. How are some ways that, I know one of the things that you and I have talked about is speed of service, okay? Maybe if you can jump from, 20 people in an hour to 40 people in an hour that you can serve, well, that's an instant way to improve your profits. What are some things that people can do to increase their speed of service?
Well, you got to start looking at the flow of the food. The food should move, not the employees. That's one thing. You want to make sure that the movements are not back and forth or side to side or 360s, even 180s. What you want to do is think about every detail. So like dressing a hamburger. We know I've eaten a billion hamburgers and sold several thousands. Mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, ketchup, pickle, onion. If that's the way that you dress the sandwich, the condiments should be in that same order. Right. So that you're moving from one to the other in the way that they're applied. And For example, Wendy's, there's condiments were in that exact order. And it was amazing how quickly we can move the food out. Every single product has an assembly process. Doesn't matter what it is. So the food should be laid out in that assembly process to make it easy, number one, so you can do it quickly, but then also you don't forget something. Because you're having to go over here to get something, go over here to get something, you're going to forget an element. And now the product's not the way you promised it to be. So certainly look at your internal mechanics. What is going to help us move the flow? And then you got to have those KPIs we talked about before. If we're going to talk about speed of service, how's it being measured? Is somebody sitting outside with a stopwatch? Does your POS system do it for you? And then monitor and celebrate those successes. One of the food trucks that I work with is doing awesome. Eggman, again, we talked about him before. His name's Richard. They celebrate successes when they put a number of guests through per hour.
Right.
They're celebrating. They're high-fiving each other and having a great time because he's letting them know, hey, this last hour we put in 87 guests. That's awesome. Let's see if we can do 90 next hour. So they're pumping each other up. So you have to celebrate whatever your level of success is and push to beat it. If you're not doing 80 and 90 guests an hour like Richard is, if you're only doing 10, well, let's shoot for 11 next hour. Let's make it happen. Let's go to 12 or 15, and keep pushing to be better. You can't just sit back and accept what you got.
Right.
You have to take action.
Yeah, I think that's really good. We talk about the concept, even in the just business world in general, of build, measure, learn, to where it's like, okay, you're constantly going through a cycle of whatever your process is, you're looking for ways to evaluate that. How can I improve that? Test those improvements to see if they actually make it worthwhile. And then you continually just go through that all the time, get better and better and better every day. And so I love what you're saying, like, hey, even if it's 10, how do you get to 11? Because then once you're at 11, how do you get to 12, to 15, to 30? And we've had customers that have gotten their plating time down to 30 seconds. They can put a plate out every 30 seconds. It took him about 3 years to get there. And he knew, actually ordering a new food trailer from us, exactly how he wanted it, because he knew where his shortcomings were on the previous trailer. He knew what his most popular menu items were, all of that stuff. And he knew if he ordered a new trailer and it improved his service time, that the trailer would pay for itself the first year that he had it. And so he was all about it. And not only did it pay for itself in the first year, it paid for itself like in the first 6 months or something. Like, he was ahead of schedule by making those improvements. And so that speed of service is a huge key that can help increase people's profits immediately.
100%. Let me throw in one caveat. People equate speed of service with being fast food, McDonald's, Wendy's, that kind of thing. I don't want to be them. You can still be fast within people's expectation of the food you're serving. If you're selling hamburgers, the expectation is I'm going to get it in about 4 or 5 minutes. How are you going to make that happen? Because I can tell you, I've cooked all different kind of burgers, from the little thin patties, the 10-to-1s as they call them, up to the third pounds. They all have a cook time, and you know what that cook time is.
Right.
You need to get that assembly process down, so as soon as that meat's cooked, we're putting it into a sandwich and it's going out. It has to be that fast.
Right.
You can't just sit back and say, they'll take 20 minutes. Well, they'll take it once because you already got their money. Right. But they're not coming back.
Right, exactly. Well, and I think that brings up a good point too with speed of service is sometimes the reason why service is slow is that the menu is just too big.
Yep.
And so one of the ways that, as counterintuitive as it might seem at times, one of the ways to speed up your service and therefore increase your profits is to pare your menu way down. And so what's a good number of their main items that they're offering? How many should that be? Is 10 too many?
Yeah, 10's too many.
Yeah.
For sure. What you want to think about is product lines. Okay, so you have a hamburger. You can have multiple variations of hamburgers, cheeseburger, bacon and cheese and that kind of thing, mushroom and Swiss. All those are still hamburgers. So you have one product line. You could have a second product line. You might be doing, the pork chop sandwiches or a chicken sandwich. So there's another product line with variations. So it gives the menu some depth without it being overcomplicated.
Right.
You could add on maybe even a third product line, but you don't want to have 10 different product lines because now they get that decision paralysis because they can't decide what they want. Make it easy.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Okay. And so that kind of to go on with that, with the menu, one of the ways that you can increase your profits is just very quick and easy add-ons to a meal. And so what are some of those things that people can do to be creative and add to what they're selling? And it might drive their average ticket price up.
And that's a good point. You do want to drive the average ticket price up because that doesn't require you to get more new people coming in. You just better take advantage of the people that you already have.
Right.
So you got two different things that you want to add on. And what I mean by that is not products, two different products, but two different things. Things that would be an addition to your menu as like a burger. Stick with a burger. I love burgers. Let's say that you've never added jalapenos. Okay, jalapenos and spicing is something that a lot of people want. Well, for 39 more cents, I can put some jalapenos on that and really spike up the flavor. People go, sure. So that's an easy add-on.
Right.
So you're adding on to something you've already sold. Different cheeses. Would you like a premium Havarti cheese or whatever? And make that a $1 add-on rather than 50 cents for American cheese. So those kind of add-ons that make sense to the menu, they're easy. Then you can add on products. Like some people don't carry bottled water for a multitude of reasons.
Right.
The most expensive bottled water you can get is going to be some type of spring water. You're looking at 14 cents a bottle.
Right.
And you're going to charge $2 in most cases. So that means your food cost is a whopping 7%.
Right.
So Bill's super happy with 7%. It also creates that upsell, or not upsell, that's a suggestive sell. Somebody says, I want that burger. The upsell is, would you like jalapenos on that?
Right.
The suggestive sell is, hey, would you like to make that a drink to round out your meal or add on fries?
Right.
Those are suggestive sellings. So you got to have the products available to sell, and you got to teach your employees, we've got to add on products, cheese, jalapenos, or whatever you can add on, bacon, mushrooms, whatever. And then what can we round out the meal with? So we got to look at a main item, a side item, a drink, and a dessert. Got to have a dessert.
Right.
Because now you got a full meal.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a place for a burger or something like that, but then in the window are some cookies or Rice Krispie treats or whatever it is, and I'm such a sucker for that, and I will add that on for a couple extra dollars. But that adds zero time to your plating. It doesn't take anything, but now the ticket price went up. I also love when you go to somewhere that's really busy. And maybe I've seen it probably more often on a barbecue truck or something like that. The meat's the main dish, but the meal comes with chips and a drink. Well, the chips and drinks are sitting outside. The drinks are in a cooler, the chips are on a rack. And so you just pick whatever chip and drink you want out of it and go. So no one inside is touching that. Your speed of service is very fast on that. But those are little add-ons that are so easy to do and drive the average ticket price up. And so anyone who's not taking advantage of those things really needs to rethink it. There's such quick and easy add-ons that you can incorporate. And a lot of times you can even find local baked goods or something like that. So they might even have their own loyalty and their own customers and notoriety in your area. And that can be a great way for people love to support local stuff. So those are really easy things that people can add on.
They are. Let me give you an example. There's a food truck in Pensacola, Florida. Their name is simply Brats, and they sell brats and a lot of other German foods.
Brats, also as some people will call them in different parts of the country, brats. Okay. Just so I only say so everybody knows what we're talking about.
I'm a hillbilly from Kentucky, so it's a brat, B-R-A-T.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, they have a lot of different foods besides brats. They have schnitzel that my wife loves. So every time they're in our area, we go to see them. Now they work off a hot dog cart. Okay, so they're selling Germanic foods off a hot dog cart. On their table, they have just what you said. They have strudel that she makes, and they're in clear containers. So it's one portion. She has usually 8 or 10 or 12 of them set up right beside where she rings you up. Then on the other side of her, she's got pretzels that they make. And she does a beer batter cheese sauce with it. And it's just an amazing cheese sauce, all homemade. So she's got that line of add-ons. and you can smell the pretzels. She has her drinks, just like you said, out in a cooler.
Yep.
And you go out there and self-serve. So when you're standing in line, they also do what we talked about earlier, samples. You're already in their line, and the man of the house, the one that does all the cooking, he's cutting up a little piece of strudel, and here, would you like to try some strudel? And he's passing it out to people. And of course, that just hooks them in on what he wants to sell them on.
Right.
The strudel. He doesn't want them to buy all the other stuff.
Right. He
wants
knows you're there to get a brat, so
Right.
you might as well just give you a sample of the dessert to add on
which
to it.
is more expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, so he does that while we're in line. Now we've already got what we're going to order because he's given us an awesome sample. And then when we get to the register, the lady is, hey, would you like the streusel? I made it myself. We only got 12 left. Now we got 10 left.
Right,
you know?
right.
And they are so efficient. They can end up being one of the busiest food trucks at the food truck rally because they're moving people through.
Right. Well, and that's another great point on even the speed of service and all that, of having an order area and a pickup area. It's one small thing, having those two things be a separate area that helps your line move quickly. And anybody who sees a fast-moving line is way more likely to get into it and take advantage of that fast-moving line. Another thing that we see all the time, and I feel bad for our customers that we follow on social media who suffer from this, but their marketing efforts really aren't that great a lot of times. And so one way to improve your profits is to improve your marketing, because our customers are chefs and cooks, and they got into this because that's what they love doing. They didn't get into this because they love making social media posts, and we have plenty who are really good at it, but some really struggle. What are some ways that people can improve their marketing if that's an area that is a struggle for them?
Mainly just make a list and follow the list. Have a pattern. Doesn't matter whether the pattern is once every couple of weeks, like we've been talking about earlier today. At least you have a pattern and people know to expect it. Now, what I prefer to see and what I tell people is every day that you're going to be open, 3 scheduled posts, because you're going to be somewhere. So that post goes out early in the morning so that people get prepared to, hey, at lunch I'm going to be, so they can start thinking about lunch. The second scheduled post would be at the point that you're going to be open. You're going to be open, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So that post goes out automatically. Hey, we're open. Come on down and see us. Then the third automatic post is about the time you think you're going to be closed. And that is, and we talked about this before, you don't want to say, hey, I'm closed. You missed out. Screw you, basically. Right. It is, thank you guys so much for an awesome day. We're going to be located tomorrow somewhere where we're going to be. You want to have those things scheduled. So just set aside a couple of hours a week and post that material on the days you're going to be closed. You still want people coming to your Facebook page to find you. So let's tell them about us. Bill's got 7 kids and we got 2 dogs and cats and all that kind of stuff. Right. It has nothing to do with the food truck.
Right. Tell your story.
Tell your story.
Right.
Let people get to know you, because once they know you, they're more likely to trust you. And once they trust you, they're going to buy from you.
Right.
But they got to know you first. If all you're doing is posting pictures of here's my awesome food, well, you're kind of one-dimensional.
Right. Well, and I know you hear this question a lot. We hear this question sometimes of like, well, what do I do when the weather's bad and I can't operate? Well, this is where you need to have a plan in place. That's a great time to schedule out your social media posts, or to work on your business plan a little bit more, or to make sure your food costs are still accurate. Like all those little add-ons will still help keep your truck to profitable and becoming more profitable if you stay on top of those things. And so even that, there is no such thing as like, well, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do. There's always something to do and something to be working on. And if the social media is too overwhelming, maybe somebody says, I just don't get it. I don't know what to post. Can you learn those things? Yes. But do you know somebody who is better at it than you are? Do you have maybe one of your kids wants to do it for you, whatever it is, anything like that. But as for food truck operators who are mobile, it's not really an option to not do social media. It's a huge missed opportunity to not be engaging in social media. And so hire somebody, do whatever you have to make sure you are getting it out there. And then once you do put stuff out there, engage with it. I hate seeing people make a post, we're going to be here today. And then you see questions underneath it that say, oh, is this still on your menu today? And there's no answer, there's no reply, there's no nothing. Engage with the social media that you put out there, and that will help people feel like they're part of your story as well. And there might be 10 people looking at that post who have that same question that only one is asking. And when you don't answer it, there's 10 other people who are wondering that same question who aren't getting that answer. And so you've got to be good at engaging in social media once you do
Absolutely.
put it out there.
What I like in that situation you just described is, imagine you're talking to somebody on the phone and they said something that's upset you. What do? You slam the phone down. Well, now we have a cell phone, we push a button. Right. But used to, you'd slam that phone down so they could hear that little rattle and you got my feeling on this situation. Mm-hmm. If you do that on social media, it's like you hung up on somebody, but you got 1 million people watching.
Right.
And that says such a bad thing about you for having ignored them. Right,
exactly. Okay, Bill, so those are all great tips. The last thing that we have on the list is a little bit more nuanced, and simply put, it's deliver excellent service. Now, I know that seems like a given, but there's so many little things of smiling when people come to the truck. I know some where if they're in the same spot on a regular basis, they do a really good job of trying to learn their customers' names. So when their customers come back, it's, hey, Mike, welcome back. What do you want today? Or do you, the usual, so creating loyal customers through good service is a great way to increase your profits, because every time you create a repeat customer, the lifetime value of that customer is going to be massive. And so creating that loyal following can be a huge thing. What are some other ways that people can increase loyal customers or improve their service as they're doing it?
Well, you mentioned just the speed of service. When we talk about speed of service, there's got to be two elements. You got to be fast. Okay, that's the speed part, but you also got to be friendly. And friendliness takes intentional thought. What does friendly look like? So you mentioned smiling, but your voice also has to reflect that you're smiling internally. And that's what we tell our employees. You want to smile internally. If nothing else, the whole world's crashing around you, at least sound like you're excited to be there. That helps because the guests will typically match whatever they're shown. If you have a nice low voice and you're just meandering through, they're going to meander through the order taking process.
Right.
But if you say, hi, welcome to my food truck, would you like to try a hamburger today? They're going to match your enthusiasm and say, no, but I really don't want a hamburger, but I'd love to have that chicken sandwich.
Right.
And now they're talking as fast as you are. So you've led them through that gate of being faster without them really knowing it. So you want to do those kind of things, but then you also want to do the KPIs again that we talked about, key performance indicators. Speed of service can be monitored. Your POS system should be able to tell you from the point that we touched the first key to the point that the last key was touched and we totaled it, how long did that take? That tells you what the cashier is doing.
Right.
It goes to the kitchen now. It's on the KDS back there, kitchen display system. So when they're looking at that screen, how long is it on that screen? How long does it take it from the time the first product goes to the time they bump it off? What's that time look like?
Right.
And then if you've got a real sophisticated system where you've got that expediter screen, once it's off of the kitchen to the expediter, how long do they have it before it gets out to the guest?
Right.
So you got to measure those things.
Yep. Well, and one of the things that I like with being able to measure that and having standards is it creates consistency in the food. I hate going somewhere and you might have a great experience one time and you go back and order the same exact thing and it's not good that time. I will never go back there again because it's not worth me risking paying $15 for a meal and not knowing if it's going to be good or not. And so I hate that. So having a consistent output is a huge part of that for sure. The other thing that I think is a really big part of this too is we get shy when we are when it comes time to asking for reviews or things like that. And so, but we really want to encourage feedback from our customers, because even if it's feedback that you've encouraged and somebody says, hey, I really like the service and everything, but this was a little too salty for me or whatever, right? one person telling you that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change, but if you're good at getting feedback and you hear the same thing 10 times, okay, now it's valid. I really need to look at changing that thing and I can improve my service. If you can really get good at getting that feedback, tweaking it, honing it into where your product has mass appeal, now you're going to get great reviews and you're going to create evangelists for your brand. So now not only do you have a loyal customer that you've got a lifetime value of them coming and spending money, but they're going to tell their friends about it or leave a review online for you. And so having 100 positive reviews is going to draw a lot more people in and make them willing to try your food versus having 10 reviews, right? And I've known a lot of great food trucks who only have 10 reviews. And it's not that they don't deserve more, but they don't ask for it. And so engaging customers in that way can make a huge difference down the road for sure. Are there any other tips or tricks that you would have for somebody to either engage with the service side of things or just any quick add-ons that they can do to make their tickets go up?
I think the one thing that you mentioned here about the reviews, where do you position that in the service taking process, the order taking process? It should be a QR code right by the pickup window, wherever that is. Here's a QR code, please leave us a review. It does help us. Explain to people why you want the review. It helps us to get better. We want the feedback. One of the things that somebody suggested to me a couple of weeks ago, and I really feel ashamed I didn't figure it out on my own, was she said that they have the QR code right by the order taking station. And as part of the order taking process, they say, hey, snap that QR code so it'll be in your browser later after you've eaten the food. Because we know that how a QR code works. It brings up whatever browser that they use, and when they get back on their phone later, that's the first thing they see on the browser. Oh, I need to leave a review.
Right.
So they do it at that point. And I thought, man, I wish I'd have thought of that.
Right. I think even if you are one of those places that has tables and chairs, having a little stand at the table itself with the QR code. Yep. And I like the idea too of, hey, do you have an issue? Let us know. Did you love it? Leave us a review. Because it gives you the opportunity to resolve any issues one-on-one with that person before they go public with it. And I've noticed a lot of times, if a company is good at taking care of an issue, they'll still earn a positive review from me because I don't expect perfection every time. But if I say something, you say, oh my gosh, we're so sorry, meal's free, we'd love to have you back, here's a coupon next time, or whatever it is. Like, okay, great. They actually care about it and they address my issue. And so any opportunity like that you can have to address it, what you can do is you prevent small problems from becoming big problems, and you prevent them from going online to voice their frustration with the service. And so that's another way to keep the positive reviews online and the negatives off of your internet profile. All right, well, thank you, Bill. These are really helpful tips for people. And so anybody who incorporates even just a few of these things is going to be able to increase their profits on their truck today. So it's very helpful. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's like Ray. Best friends forever. Best friends forever.